Hello, everyone. I hope you guys are doing really well. My name's Eva, and I want to thank you for joining me here. I was just in the middle of doing training for becoming a death doula, and it just really opened up a lot of healing. I was very actively involved in assisting my father to pass through about 5 years ago. And it really opened up so much of my work, sort of interdimensional spirit work that I do. And I see myself very much as a bridge between realms, not just from, leaving this incarnation into the expansion of whatever is next for each individual soul, but while we are alive, and that is the work while we are alive in our bodies here. And that is the work that we do together to interdimensionally connect and reunify. But I felt very strongly that I wanted to record some of this healing that was coming through because it feels very much collective in the way of like clearing the fear of death, which solidifies the belief in it as like annihilation or an ending. It's the end of our physical incarnation, but certainly not the end of our consciousness, not the end of our soul, and not the end of our eternal formless being. So if you have, you don't need to have direct experience with someone in your life that you were close to passing. We are all going to pass through this incarnation, and a lot of the training so far is has been focused on how in the past 80 years death has become a medical crisis to be averted instead of a very natural part of our lives on earth. And this sort of forcing of inorganic technology and the death process, like 80% of deaths take place in hospitals. So really digging this out from within us, which isn't going to be too hard. Everyone has feelings about death, and certainly, if you have been, if you have had the experience of someone close to you passing, if you were there or not, this idea of loss, fear of loss, and then trauma from loss, sadness, grief from loss. So I want to provide a sort of outlet for this to be released from us, and so that the truth of our being can be revealed also to us, so that this fear has no basis. So just taking nice deep breaths. Remembering ourselves at home in the formless, eternal divine. There is nothing to fear. And in terms of, if we think about this kind of healing as an unraveling of time, as an undoing, which I do, certainly there are cultures on Earth now that still view death as a continuation or a transformation, a transition, certainly not an ending to be railed against. And they're, traditions, cultural traditions that are still very community-based, and celebrations and things like that. So it's not completely lost. In the Western world, it hasn't been that long that we have had this really oppositional view to death. So if we think about unraveling code in terms of time and timelines and history and genetic memory, it's sort of the top layer, if that makes sense. Tanimani konaye soti taishini sanihana yut. Yayo kono injoro hite yasani kani. Imi noro kinindiri kinitiri kia. And this is also a heart opening to It feels very much in the heart, to connect us into the heart of the earth, into the soul of the earth, into the soul of our highest being. Kimi ani shomoruitis, kimi shanainsa kinayaso tosomjayaso konapdati. And it also is connecting us into like choice, like the remembrance of our own choice. Kyoyo kuripayasna sonchakina anza kayatu yamayani toyonora kayasi shama sansa kananua mari tayani hani shokoni sayos yamaya nuyendo konuyunchat yo koru sa parukinani yamnayo no sheni nanayoni toyoto konihian yaptor kinash tokor gonam yatusum jagayas natrikin. This is also coming through as like letting go of a fear of what's next, even if you are not, facing the end of your incarnation, just the fear of what's next for us in general, for your own personal life, for the earth, in all of the different contexts in which the earth is changing. There's obviously a lot of fear in the collective. There's a lot of rapid change going on with the changes in, at least in the United States, the government is shut down right now because of differences of opinion in healthcare and who should have access to that, and the financial aspects of that. And my sister works in a healthcare related field, and she just told me that the number one reason people go bankrupt in this country is because of paying for healthcare. This brings up a lot of pain and a lot of fear of what's next, and it's not just in this context, but since we started the conversation this way, these fears that we feel around what's going on around us in the collective have deeper roots throughout time and deeper roots into belief structures that have actually caused these situations to proliferate, because thought is what creates form. And so these are held, this is holding up the structure of this sort of, we talk about the word matrix. It's not really to think about the movie. That's a math term about like a set of data that is like a kind of structure, and that's what we mean. That's what I mean. This holographic matrix that holds up what we believe to be physical, right? But these are currents of mind, and we can trace them back. And so that's the work that we do, to sort of free ourselves of these fears and see the truth of our choice. Hinayonto korro iti sinje kini matranis natu, yatakaya koyono korru inyam sotoyati kayan, yatikaraya to sonjokoi, yim darakorru to soyo shum satayas natu, shimi sonzo imzati shinindisaki asikiriati sanzakaya sha. And I did a video yesterday about working with 3-eye Atlas, and the next trance meditation I'm going to record later today is going to be for that too. But it was a big message of neutrality, of witnessing how neutral everything really is, and when we can divest emotional currents and ideas and opinions and investment, that we can see the choices we have more clearly, and how our choices are holding up structures in us and in the world around us, which are one. It is to empower ourselves to choose differently and to see the true power of our choice. We think it doesn't mean anything, but it does. It means everything. You might think, what does this have to do with my fear of death? The fear of death is the foundation of this world. We die because we believe it exists. So when we start to dismantle all of these belief systems, we see the true foundational beliefs that are holding up the structure. It's a projection of mind. The mind doesn't die. Kinatrako dipto komashno noim zana yindo konoatis. Shaptoki. And if you think about your body and the regeneration of cells constantly, right? You're always changing. It's always a transformation. That's always happening. Satiti homakina indit. We have to open to expansion of ideas about what we are. Kitakorato sonjakias, and this should bring deep peace to us. Satrokunimashingaya kun. We were wrong, but that's okay. Siasaya shinitayas nanra nindo tumdiatas nitishitis. There is nothing to fear. Shoya nino ratus at any level. Shimi and zinikoyum noruiti kinitish nandri nindarapayatis nindrihai. And what's coming through now is like this sort of fear or belief in eternal damnation. That's the only way in the fear-based thought system that eternity exists is hell, right? This belief can be revealed as untrue. Kinan rokani payashnokot indatani tatidana nantua. Yana rahitok. Satritis. It's like undoing cycles of pain. Shitatokonot. And reinforcement. Suyashamasinitri. This like the evidence of the ego. Kinindoshibi. Saying, okay, this lady's crazy. Look at all of the evidence I can provide you. But that only works when you only believe that the physical is real. And we have so much evidence already that that's not true. Even within accepted, shared belief, art, collective unconscious, ideas, thoughts, they're not physical in the way that this table is. Does that mean they're not real? Your thoughts are not real to you? Your emotions? They can have physical manifestations in the actions we take and in the what we would perceive to be the electrochemical interactions within our bodies. But the feeling of them, we probably wouldn't describe so much as physical, right? Not in the same way that this computer is, or these headphones. We can already see how multidimensional our lives are and how much sustains when things pass. Sincha kumasnitis umbakina inarkaya tokona oashana tasa shunasanzini dindro ruindo como sonzokotisha nikani simiaya tokorkota samzanashna tarakayan dakiri kini shamaya nainiara kunuyunzogoriishi nikana sinzaka shuma sanza injara gina tror kini ingrakor koikidikashi kaya. And this is also about, this has been coming through a lot in my, preparing for stepping into working with others in a capacity as a death doula, that, where we are in Earth, in the timeline of Earth's evolution and the consciousness evolution of the beings, not just humans, but the beings who inhabit this place, that we release ourselves from karmic superimposition, karmic loops, getting sucked. We believe we get sucked back into this place. Those who believe in reincarnation, getting, whether or not you do on the surface, getting like sort of pooped out again into a different body that is like karmically very twisted up with other form and other belief choices. It looks very messy in that way, but that this idea of samsara, right, of like looping endless incarnations, there is something very inorganic about that is like that is driven by the choice of fear, and we are here to undo this now. And when we are in this time space, this point in time on Earth, there is a big message of assisting those who are leaving their bodies to kind of break that wheel and be free in the choice of where to go next and what to do. Yes, this idea, and sometimes we see this in people who do past life regression or the work of Dolores Cannon and like Journey of Souls and that kind of stuff, where there's like this end of life review and then you choose to come back, or your like spirit guides tell you to come back. I think that is all very inorganic projection to keep people stuck in loops of choices of fear, that they are not empowered to make their own choices, that they are not empowered to see the world that they made out of fear. And this is a projection of inorganic time that is not helpful to the true ascension, which is to merge back into the eternal formless divine. And I'm not afraid to say that. I know a lot of people believe in that, and I don't. I've read a lot about it. I've investigated that work myself, and I have found it to be very unhelpful and very, very limiting. And I believe that we will have to undo that work as well. I think that that's why it's so important to understand where you're getting your information from and to question everything against your own eternal formless being, to see if that feels relevant for you, or if you're just listening to it because it's what other spiritual people do or whatever. I think it's very delaying. Do you want to be free now? This is the question, always. It's about accepting your own power as an eternal being. This is the only thing that will dissolve fear, the acceptance of yourself as a being of eternal love. Kinandratis, you're not stuck in some structure with beings that have more power than you telling you what to do. How different is that from the government? Or religious organizations or cultural organizations. I see no difference except that it's in a different dimensionality of being. And that's the structure that is imposing that in our minds here in the physical world. And so when you start to expand out into being interested in investigating those things, you really get to see. For me, and I've described it this way before, that it's like we have built ourselves downward into further and further density. And it looks to me like it looks this way as a representation. I'm not saying this is the way that it is. Shells of dimensions around that are more expanded and so more like unity, but not unity itself, because any level of difference is not of unity, right? Choosing to see any level of otherness would not be formless eternal being. This is not always bad. We have made it such because we believe that. But this is why yesterday when we were working with the sacred geometry and sacred color codes, we see this in more expanded dimensions. So in order to undo all of the belief we have in death and suffering and loss, we have to unravel from these other dimensions, which are sort of, harmonic universes are sort of created by the dimension above or around. And so when we lift ourselves through, we start to see where these projections are coming from, because we've made life so complicated with all of the different dimensions that we can be in, and we are in them all. And so we see where these sort of directives are coming from, which are still inorganic and fear-based, and still control and manipulation-based. It's not coming from outside of yourself, it's a choice that you've made. But because this one self, has chosen to distort itself and mutate and alter itself so much by the choice of fear, separation, and otherness, that we have created all of these different dimensions of time and space. And this is certainly not the only set of those which is distorted and fear-based. So there's a lot of beings participating in this. You get to free yourself at all moments. Your choice to be free is your own, given by God, and it is for all. And so my work is to recognize we are already free now. Don't wait for heaven, and don't get sucked into more story of projection, of manipulation and control. It will not serve your freedom, and it will not serve the freedom of the world. Kaya sumashakonima trikom natrin sakini shinindai sini shandatu kono yum do koruitai sinjiritis natri kani kanin. Imikinin do rokono yum dikini ashimasa tatakianat. Yatro ruti sinjiri trihitis. These sort of life reviews and this idea of school and having to be put back here to learn more lessons is control-based nonsense. I'm sorry. That is a refusal to accept your own power of choice. But many people get to that point because it is shared. It's still shared. It's just happening in another dimensional form. But it has direct effect on this one. Because it's all, there's no space. It's all in the same spot. Kita koro koro komasan. Shamiyandi kinikinit. Let your mind be free of this. Sikia shikianita tanam di kanisit. See the true unity of all things. That is reunion. To see the light of the one truth in all things reflected back at you because you have chosen to accept it. You can only really give it that way. Kiasian sokian jagayas nakun. Tai yondor kitaya sumjiritri kin andratis nitri tini kini amat. Dissolve these limitations from your mind. Dissolve these limitations from all dimensions. Kia kianat. Dotis natri kam nantain do bayayatianatriaya sanjigiritayaton. Shamdin zitis notokum datatayanjiri hainda ikayaya kaya tunoat. Yaya kunoaraya kiana borkupisi. Sato shankanda tuyo noto indidiso kiniti sinjikini datisi. Shiti sinzanandri oru idi karato sonjakarakiata kanamaya nat. Sotio aya. Let yourself take a big deep breath. Coming back into this moment of self. Remembering you are never alone. God goes with you wherever you go. You have never left the mind of God. You only chose to project a belief of something other. Choose again. This is our power. I'm going to end it here. I love you all very much. Thank you for watching. If you feel called into deeper work at this time, there are many ways that we can work together, and they're always linked below in all of the videos. The trance meditations are very, very powerful. If you are interested in light language, vocal code work, and sound healing, you could get a lot out of them, I think. Awaken a lot from within you for your own gifts as well. So, yes. Thank you all again. I love you all very much, and I'll see you next time.